One thing people still get wrong about brand growth is the idea that it should happen quickly. But strong brands actually grow through consistency, and that takes time. We've gotten so used to this startup mindset where everything is about rapid growth. Those are the old rules. This is brand new rules.
We're making brand new rules, taking things in a brand new direction.
Welcome back to Brand New Rules, the podcast where we break down branding, call out outdated advice, and bring you fresh perspective you can actually use, or at the very least, will make you think. I'm Jasmine, and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Ariane and Christina. And we have real conversations about what it takes to build a brand that gets noticed and how branding shows up in culture, trends, and the way people connect every day. We're also the founders of Groundfire Agency, so if you want to see what we're building beyond the mic, check us out on our website and or Instagram. Now let's get into it.
So today we're talking about how brand strategy connects to growth strategy. We're chatting about why it matters for founders, marketers, and growing businesses. So brand and growth are often treated as separate, but they should not be.
But people feel like branding is an afterthought, or they connected directly with their logo and look and feel, which, yes, sure, that is a big piece of it. We drilled that into you on the first episode. But when we think about separating the branding from growth or your plans, your business plan, here is another instance where we're telling you that is a mistake. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah. So I think y'all know, again, coming from like the finance side, the stuff, most people don't really want to talk about, but business growth feels more measurable. People can see it on their line. They can see like, oh, I'm making more money or I have more whatever. And that's what we're all in this for ultimately, right? People want to make money. We all have to do a job.
100%.
So business growth gets treated as way more serious. But when you think of a brand as a more comprehensive ecosystem, as your messaging, as how you're talking to your customers, as your sales pitch, because that is absolutely a part of your branding, that means your brand actually does translate to growth. But you do have to track those metrics. I think that's a very important part that a lot of people don't think about when you think about branding is the metrics are harder to track, but if you have your system set up right, they are trackable and they do matter. So they're not separate. They're actually one and the same.
Yeah, thinking about branding is in the way that we're presenting it to you all that are listening. This is how you get people through the door. This is how you find out who your client is, your customers are. This is how you learn how to connect so that you can get the growth that you're looking for that turns into sales. When people feel like they understand who you are and they notice that you know how to solve their problems effectively, that is growth. And you do that through effective brand planning. We've been recently working with young entrepreneurs in general that are starting to build out their business plans and build out systems for themselves. And we talk through how important it is. And they're like, oh, I've been building this business plan and I didn't include that when I thought about growth. I didn't even think about how to speak beyond myself and to a couple of friends and family about this to get those sales that I'm looking for. So when we talk about growth, this is it. This is definitely a piece of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I think that goes into like the issue that they see or why they don't think about it is because brand doesn't always show up, to your point, Christina, like neatly in a dashboard, right? It feels more tangible. It's like the metrics, but people undervalue the depth of branding to deepen your goals, really reflect, ask the right questions to then, to your point, Jasmine, connect with your audience, really think about your business more strategically.
Right.
And when you're able to do that, then you're able to hit those measurements. And that's why they can't be seen as separate lanes. They have to be seen.
Yeah. And the brand is the long-term play. It really is. That is your long-term growth strategy, is your brand. It's kind of the whole kit and caboodle.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't mind that little
So true.
kit and caboodle.
Right. All right. So we've just kind of looked at understanding the disconnect between brand and growth, and now hopefully shedding light to how they really do connect. But What changes when branding and growth actually end up working together? Let's get a little bit deeper here. We touched it a little bit in our response before.
I think everything feels more intentional, efficient. And those sales conversations that we were talking about start to make sense. If you can't speak about your business in a way that connects with your audience because you didn't take the time to realize that messaging, which is a part of branding, it will grow your business, then you're already behind the eight ball with that. So when you start thinking through messaging, you start thinking about how your message is connecting directly to fill the gaps and solve the problems of the people that you're going after, and you're creating a brand around those efforts, then everything starts to feel far more intentional. Those sales conversations get easier. Marketing performance increases, referrals start taking up all the things, right? All the
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
partnerships you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Decision making gets easier because you understand fully what you've built and who you've built it for. That is how you know when it's working. That is how you
Yeah.
know when you've created something that is connected and also is foundational to your growth.
Yep.
That's when
Yeah.
you know
And
it's
I
working
think
out.
it also is about you end up having alignment. And I
Yeah.
talked about this, the importance of having alignment across all channels, all audiences, really, your
Mhm.
employees or your customer, everything. And I think when you stop thinking in terms of how do we get more people and really, again, start asking yourselves deeper questions of how do we attract the right people
Right.
and give them a reason to stay, right? Then
Yeah.
you're hitting that place of alignment and through all of what you just mentioned, Jasmine, efforts.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's really how the growth becomes sustainable.
Absolutely.
Totally. Totally. And I love that you mentioned there, Ari, to the employees too, because when we say everything gets easier, if you have your messaging on point and you do grow and you start hitting all of your targets and you're getting the right people in the door and your right audience, your next step, your next growth step is hiring employees, having someone else replicate what you can do.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
especially for founders and even for larger organizations, if your messaging isn't cohesive, teaching that to someone becomes a burden and it becomes one of those things where it's like, oh, I can do it faster myself, but that won't
Ooh,
sustain
that,
your
yeah,
growth.
you're
No, then
absolutely
then
You
you're
right.
often
can't
in the
teach it.
step. Yeah.
Exactly. If you can't teach it, then you can't grow. So like that alignment, both internal and external, is so, so important.
Yeah. I was
So
thinking about I was telling I guess both of you earlier about how I was watching another podcast. I won't name it, but another
how dare you?
absolutely not. There's other
How
podcasts
dare
that
you?
exist outside of this one. But I was watching another podcast and Cardi B was the guest. And when she was talking about the new business that she's launching, her hair care line, she was speaking on how you can get someone in the door once, but if you don't understand the brand that you're building, that's all you're going to get. You won't get
Yep.
that repeat customer because they won't feel connected to anything beyond, let me try this. There's nothing that they're connecting to beyond, let me just give this to a try. Or in her case, as she said, like Cardi, I'll just buy this once to support her. What is going to get people continuously coming in the door, giving you that growth? And she even said herself, it's knowing your brand. It's knowing your
Mhm.
brand really, really well. So, I mean, if you don't take it from us, you can take it from Cardi B. So there's
For
that
Yep.
little
sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, once
that
you
little
know
tip.
what alignment looks like, you can spot that misalignment
Yeah.
super fast.
Yep.
Really fast. And then also you
Yeah.
can spot it in other brands. You can spot it when you're shopping and you're like, oh, that one thing I tried once I didn't feel connected to, or that one organization, or you start to understand why you're not being someone's second customer, like coming in and, repurchasing things or someone else's client because you don't feel connected to what they've built. And chances are they really don't either.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
So how can you tell when growth is moving faster than brand can support?
I think
Right.
people get
Exactly.
really wrapped up in the momentum and get really, yeah, you got sales coming in. I don't have time to work my messaging and I don't need it. I've got sales. Amazing. That's a great space to be in.
Mhm.
But if you don't spend time focusing on that branding and you have inconsistent messaging or constant pivots and how the business describes itself and no one really understands what you
Mm,
do, the people who have come to you in the beginning understand because they knew what they got from you, right?
right.
But then you try to get some new players in there or some of those contacts dry up or they have what they need and they move on. and you don't know how you're describing yourself to new people.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you haven't been working on that, all of a sudden you're trying to backtrack, you're scrambling, and you're trying to pull things together that you didn't even know were wrong.
And then
Yes,
you
and that's
accidentally build like a if you know kind of business. Who wants
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
No,
You
because I
know?
think then this comes back to what we've talked about it, the importance of making sure that you're also building your internal brand, right?
Mhm.
Because to your point, the infrastructure just starts feeling a mess.
Right.
And then your team starts asking, wait, how do we talk about this? Or is this how we're identifying ourselves now? Or like who are we? And
Mm,
the answers to them become unclear. And then
right.
growth starts creating chaos instead of momentum.
Ooh,
And
that
I
now
think
And
that's a word. Growth starts
yes.
creating chaos instead of momentum. That's a
Yes,
good one.
but for
for
real,
sure. It
I think
does.
that's a
Yeah,
big,
Yeah.
big red flag. And I think
that is a big red
honestly,
flag.
most companies are going to start feeling it internally before externally. And
Mhm.
the big thing is that they push those red flags aside.
Yeah. Especially if
Mm,
you're growing super fast, you already probably have like an overworked and overstressed out team because
uh-huh.
we all know that, the alignment in your head count isn't always in line with your sales and what people actually have the
Mm-mm.
capacity and
Yeah.
bandwidth to do,
Right.
which again could again be a whole nother episode. But I think that's when, their employees are stressed, they're overworked, they don't know what's going on. And then you come in and you're like, ooh, things like that pipeline's looking a little light, even though they're in the middle of the chaos.
Mm,
You're looking at your pipeline that's seeming light, and you're saying, "Hey, we're going to change this. We're going to change that," but you don't have any clear indication of why or how or what this means. And they're over here stuck in the trenches, and
yeah.
you're trying to look
Yep.
forward, and no one knows what's going on.
No,
Yeah.
you're just like patching up holes. There's no
Mm.
real infrastructure. You're not doing the construction of your house.
Yeah.
And then if you in a startup and it's
Mm,
you and maybe a partner and you all haven't even reached the place where you have a team, but you feel the stretch, you feel the stress and the chaos that we're speaking of. You probably need to slow down and check the brand infrastructure that you're building and
Mhm.
find out if you're building one at all. Because
yeah,
a solid brand feels like amplification. And to your point, Ari, not chaos.
right.
Mhm.
Jazzy, you're
Mhm.
just on it with the segues because that's the next thing that is here is okay, so we've talked about the red flags and the issues that come up, but what is the fix? How do you connect branding to growth in a real practical way?
When we're thinking about connecting branding to growth is aligning your position with your business goals. We kind of touched on the business plan earlier and how we're working with
Yeah,
entrepreneurs getting started, but really asking yourself, does your brand support where the business is trying to go? Is your messaging set up in a way where people know exactly who you are when they go into your social media, onto your website, when you're speaking about it? Is your have anything that is off-putting to the customer or the client that you are trying to go after? If you know your client profile, meaning you know who they are, where they hang out at, like if you have their client profile down, are you building something that's going to offend them or it's not where they are? Like, what is your brand? How is your brand set up to support the customers and the clients that you're trying to go after? And have you really thought through the messaging to support all of that? I
mhm.
think that's a good one.
And I would even say then the next step would be pressure test that, the experience. So thinking
Yeah.
about does the website, sales process, and overall client experience match that promise? Is everything aligning and flowing and landing the way that you have intended? And honestly, I think part of that is just getting out and doing.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
I will
1,000%.
say just from personal experience as we're growing our business, helping and supporting other businesses and small businesses especially, and we've talked about this, sometimes we, like, live in our own head. We're so know the
Yes.
details, the ins and outs, but we're not vocalizing it, and we're, not really being forward with it, but when you do, then you really see what's working. That's what I mean when I'm talking about the pressure testing and seeing how things are landing.
So, if we had to boil it down all into one rule, what would it be?
Mm. That growth strategy without brand strategy creates motion without meaning. You
Mm,
know,
Already coming in with these little snips.
Yeah,
Love it.
exactly.
Chaos earlier,
I've never
emotional
been
Yeah.
meaning. I love it.
before. No, but I think brand strategy without a path that we've talked about, without, a North Star to follow, just ends up becoming either abstract, misunderstood, chaotic. And the goal is to make the brand do real business work.
Before we go, here's the question we want to leave you with. Is your growth strategy actually working, or is it doing extra work because your brand is still unclear? Let us know your thoughts wherever you're listening. And thanks so much for listening to us. We really look forward to our Wednesdays with you. It's every other Wednesday, and we'll keep them coming. So follow Groundfire Agency on Instagram and rate us on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever else you might get these in the future. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Bye.